Hello YouTube, this is Captain Nav. I hope you are all doing well. In this video today we are going to talk about ETOPS, what ETOPS is, what its two core principles are, and we'll also look at a practical example trying to demystify some of the wild theories out there. So ETOPS stands for Extended Range Twin Engine Operational Performance Standards. Is sometimes referred to as extended range twin engine operations, extended operations, or if we want to be smart, engine stern or passengers swim. However, please note that ETOPS does not only apply to flights over oceans, it also applies to flights over big land masses like Africa, for example, or Australia, where there is a lack of airports capable of welcoming large aircraft. So why do we need ETOPS? Well, in the old days, twin-engine aircraft were required to stay within 60 minutes flying time from a potential diversion airport, in particular because their engines were deemed unreliable. So this meant that, for example, to cross the Atlantic, you had to use a less direct route, a less efficient route, or otherwise fly with a 4-engine aircraft. As time went on, piston engines were replaced by more efficient, more reliable jet engines, and the possibility to fly beyond 60 minutes became a reality, and ETOPS was introduced. ETOPS is a twofold concept. It's a certification or legal requirement, in particular in relation to aircraft reliability and airline procedures, and it is also in itself a flight planning exercise. So as we said, ETOPS is a certification process that permits twin-engine aircraft such as the Boeing 777 or the Boeing 787 to fly routes which may be more than 60 minutes flying time away from the nearest airport that is suitable for an emergency landing. 60 minutes flying time is defined by the single engine cruise speed in still air and ISA conditions. For the Boeing 777 it is 420 knots, so our 60 minutes flying time is equivalent to 420 nautical miles. We can have several ETOPS ratings. We have ETOPS 120, which represents 120 minutes. We have ETOPS 180, ETOPS 207, which is an extra 15% on ETOPS 180. The Boeing 777-300ER, for example, is certified for ETOPS 207. So even though we are ETOPS 207 qualified, then we can calculate a flight plan based on ETOPS 120, which offers us more flexibility. Talking about flight plan, we said that ETOPS is a flight planning exercise. So from a planning point of view, we need to identify available or adequate ETOPS airports we could divert to. Over the North Atlantic, these are the main ETOPS airports, and please note that there's no adequate airports in Greenland. Airports in Greenland are considered emergency airports and therefore cannot be used for ETOPS. So as you can see here, the ETOPS area in the North Atlantic is quite significant. So all our ETOPS adequate airports have all the facilities we need, long runways, ILS, rescue services, etc. But to be usable in case of ETOPS diversion, we need one more thing, good weather. So an adequate airport will become a suitable airport when the weather forecast indicates it will be possible to land there. So to determine which airport is suitable, the dispatcher will look at the weather forecast for all the airports and will decide which airport to choose. So in our flight from London to New York, the dispatcher will look, for example, at Keflavik, and you can see that the weather forecast for Keflavik is good. And I will look also at the weather forecast for St. John's. The weather forecast for St. John's is good as well, so Keflavik and St. John's can be our ETOPS alternates. When planning for ETOPS, we look at three possible diversion scenarios, along with the fuel requirement to carry out those diversions. If we realize we do not have enough fuel for those diversions, then we need to add ETOPS additional fuel to the flight plan. The three diversion scenarios are an engine failure in the cruise, forcing the pilots to fly a drift down and divert to the nearest suitable airport. The second scenario is a depressurization, where you get to keep both engines, but you are seriously crippled. And the third scenario is combined engine failure and depressurization, which is a really bad day. The flight plan will also work out the position of the ETP, the equal time point. Before the ETP, we divert back to Keflavik. After the ETP, we divert to St. John's. However, please note that once in the air, you are not required to divert to the nominated ETOPS airports. You can divert back to Shannon, for example, or to Gander or Goose Bay. As ETOPS is a planning exercise, once in the air, the captain is free to use his own judgment. Right now we look at the flight plan. The ETOPS section is at the bottom of the page there. We used ETOPS 120. Then we have some information on the ETOPS entry and exit, in particular the location and the time to get there. And then some information about the ETOPS suitability period, which goes beyond the realm of this video. On the next page, we have the planning for the three diversion scenarios. Each scenario includes the ETP position, the fuel at the ETP, the fuel and time to the ETOPS alternates, along with some navigation and wind information. The more penalizing scenario, at least in terms of fuel, is the engine out depressurization one, which will usually determine the ETP depicted on the route chart previously shown, and also included in the navigation log. So here we are now on the 777-300 ER flight level 340, on track to Mallet, west of Ireland, on our flight from London to New York. As we are getting close to the oceanic entry point, we'll start entering some information in the FMC to help our situational awareness. So we'll enter Shannon in the fixed page, like this, and then we'll enter 420 nautical mile ring centered on Shannon, like this. Then we'll do the same for Keflavik. We'll enter the ICAO code Bravo India Kilo Foxtrot, set it in fixed page number 2, and also enter 420 nautical mile ring based on Keflavik itself. Now if we zoom out on the navigation display, you can see the 420 nautical mile rings both on Shannon and Keflavik, and beyond those the ETOPS area. At this stage, what we can do is go to the alternate page and enter Shannon. Here at the top, and then we can also enter Keflavik. Keflavik at the moment is not showing in the list of alternates, so we can make it appear there. The alternate page gives us rough ETA and fuel at all the alternate airports available. We can see here that Shannon and Dublin, for example, are way closer in terms of time than Keflavik. And now we are approaching 20 west. We can see on the navigation display the 420 nautical mile ring based on Shannon. And if we zoom out, also Keflavik are 3 o'clock and the ETOPS area ahead. If we look at the fixed page, we can see our distance to Shannon, and we can see also our distance to Keflavik. So at this stage, as we are about to enter ETOPS, it makes more sense to go back to Shannon rather than go to Keflavik. And before entering ETOPS, we'll check the weather for Keflavik. The weather is good, as you can see on the lower display. The weather for Shannon is good as well. And finally we can look at St. John's as well, just for some indication, although St. John's is quite far at this stage. As we are about to enter ETOPS, as you can see on the navigation display, we've done everything we need to do. We checked the weather for our ETOPS alternates and also Shannon. The weather is good there, so if we need to divert, then we'll be able to land. And there's nothing else we need to do at this stage. We're just settling into the flight. One thing I want to show you is how accurate the flight planning software is. The coordinates given by the flight planning software match our current location coordinates. As we are approaching 30 west now, which is usually considered the halfway point and also the handover between Shanwick and Gander, we can enter the ETP coordinates into the fixed page like this. Enter exactly the coordinates given by the flight plan. And now we'll see the ETP depicted on the navigation display. We can add 20-mile ring to make it a little bit bigger. And as I said previously, this will help our situational awareness, showing the ETP on the navigation display. So now on the navigation display, we can see the large ETOPS area in front of us. We can see Keflavik on our right hand side and St. John's ahead. If we look at the alternate page, we'll see the various ETAs for Shannon, Keflavik, and at this stage what we can do as well is enter St. John's in the alternate page as well, like this. Almost 3 hours into the flight, we are now approaching the equal time point, the ETP. And what I can do at this stage is to show you in the fixed page. If we have a look, we can get to St. John's. So we got 760 plus miles to St. John's, about 771 miles to Keflavik, so pretty much halfway. In terms of time, Keflavik shows 20:55, St. John's shows 21:15. As I said previously, these are rough estimates. What you need to realize is that the ETAs in the alternate page are based on the current speed and level, and the diversion times are based on lower levels and different speeds. What we can do to refine the ETA in the alternate page is to enter, for example, the current wind, or try to work out what the wind will be. So for example, I'm entering the current wind here, and I'll do the same for St. John's. Here we are, same wind. And they will a little bit refine the ETAs in the alternate page. Now we see Keflavik 2100, St. John's 2113, so the gap has narrowed a little bit. But as I said, you'll never get exactly the same ETAs, and it's exactly the same in real, and we can live with that, it's okay. Are we there yet? Well, almost. It's now 40 west, and we can see on the navigation display the 420 nautical mile based on St. John's. We can see Keflavik well behind. We can also, I guess, Gander pretty much straight ahead. This is now a good time to tidy up the FMC a little bit. St. John's just over 500 miles ahead. Keflavik is almost 900 miles behind. And in the alternate page we can delete Shannon. And what we can also do is the alternate page is suggesting Charlie Yankee and Delta Fox. We don't want the airport, so we can put it into the alternate inhibit like this. It's giving us another airport, Charlie Yankee Juliet Tango. We can also get rid of this airport and put it into the alternate inhibit like this. Deer Lake and Stephenville are not adequate airport for us, so we can remove them from the alternate list and instead have airports like Goose Bay or Gander displayed. As we are about to exit ETOPS, I will do exactly the same as when we entered ETOPS. I will show you the coordinates, and you'll see that the coordinates once again are quite accurate. Of course, I'm sure you have understood that this is not part of the ETOPS setup. It's just to show you a little bit how the flight planning software works, and it does actually work in practice in relation to the entry and exit points. This gives us also more confidence in the flight plan software for all the other ETOPS calculations. So almost there, and once again you can see the coordinates are very similar, which is to be expected, I guess. I'll pause the simulator there. And you'll see the coordinates are very, very accurate, which is nice to see once again. And the distance to 50 west given in the flight plan is accurate as well. Talking of 50 west, we are almost there. Now out of ETOPS, we've got St. John's, Gander, Goose Bay ahead of us. Canada is within reach, so the crossing is pretty much done at this stage, and there's not much to do anymore. Well, at least as far as ETOPS is concerned. You can see on the navigation display the VORs are now tuning, so, and we would be in VHF communication with Gander domestic. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. There's nothing else to it. As you can see, there's no fancy FMC manipulations as suggested by so many people out there. The FMC setup I'm suggesting is only there to enhance situational awareness. It's a simple FMC setup. You insert 420 nautical mile rings based on the entry, ETOPS, and exit airports. You can enter the required airports in the alternate page, and finally in the fixed page you can also enter the coordinates of the ETP. That's what I do in real as a 777 captain, and I've never been told I was wrong, so must be okay then. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, then please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to see similar content. You can join me on Twitter, on Discord, and on Twitch for live flights. So until next time, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.